Hey guys, welcome to the channel. So if you've been playing Throne and Liberty, you must know how confusing selecting your gear is. And everywhere you look, most people just share their max level builds and really don't explain how to build your build with the equipments you have, like what stats to look for on your armor, accessories, weapons, what's good or what's bad. So in this video, I'll go over on how to build your own build using the gear and weapons you have until you get max level purple gear and follow a meta build. So let's get into the video. So first, to build your own build, we must first understand your stat page. If you don't know what each stat means and what to look for, then all is lost. First, you have your base damage. If you don't know how to get to your stat page, just click here on your character info and you can get to this page. So your base damage comes from your main hand weapon. So whatever your main hand weapon is, that weapon's base damage is your character's base damage. Now you can see that my base damage is higher than my weapon's base damage. Don't worry, I'll explain why in a little bit. But more importantly, you can see that your base damage is a range and not like a single number. Which means every time you use an attack, it's going to do a number within that range. So for example, if you take this Fireball Barrage, it says it deals 50% of your base damage, which means it's going to take a damage number within the range of your base damage. So let's say like 100 and divide it by 2 because it's 50%. So 50 and add this flat 29 damage to it. So that means each hit is going to do 79 damage and this hits for 10 times. I hope you got it. It's same for others as well. Next, these melee, range and magic defenses is that the more you have, the less damage you're going to take from each. Pretty simple, not too complicated. And next we have melee, ranged and magic hit chance. What this is that every attack you make is not a guaranteed hit. It can miss even if the enemy is standing still. So this hit chance is the percentage of how much of your attack is going to land on the enemy. So the higher you have, the better the odds at hitting the enemy. Here we have melee, ranged and magic evasion. So this is basically the opposite of hit chance. This is how much of the enemy's attacks are going to miss you. Don't get it mixed with like your defensive abilities like dodging. That's separate from this, like your defensive skills. Those are completely manual. Okay, this is how much attacks going to miss you even if you're like standing still. So the higher your evasion, the higher the chance of enemies' attacks are going to miss you. Next, we have crit hit chance. So crit is your max damage. So on your base damage range, that max number is your crit damage, okay? So when you do a crit hit with your skill or your normal attack, it's going to take that max damage number and add the multipliers that is unique to your skills. So that's how crit works. So higher the crit chance is, the more crit hits you're going to do. And endurance is when an enemy hits you with an attack, endurance lowers the chance of that attack is going to land as a crit hit. So this lets you avoid crit hits and take any attack as like a normal hit. So you won't take as much damage. Next, we have heavy attack chance. So what heavy attack is, any damage you're going to do, it's going to get doubled. So let's say your hit is going to do like 100. If it's a heavy attack, it's going to do 100 times 2. Even crit can do heavy attacks, okay? So if a crit hits for like 300, if it's a heavy, it's going to do 300 times 2. If it's a heavy attack, you can see it in the damage numbers. It has like a multiplier sign next to it. So the more heavy attack chance you have, the more heavy attacks you're going to do. As for heavy attack evasion, it's how much you're going to evade a heavy hit from an enemy. Skill damage boost is that you get a damage increase to your skills by a certain amount according to the number here. So I think like every 10 points give you like a 1% increase to your skill damage. Nothing too complicated. It's good if you can stack this because it's a flat damage increase, so that's always good. And skill damage resistance is you're gonna get less damage from enemy skill hits. Bonus damage is like a flat extra damage increase. So if you have like 10 bonus damage, every one of your hits, it's gonna do a flat 10 extra damage. And damage reduction is exactly what it says. It reduces the damage you take by a flat amount. Crit damage is that when you hit a crit, it's gonna get an extra percentage of damage. So for me, my crit hit, it's gonna do an extra 12% damage based off my crit damage number. And crit damage reduction is when you get hit by a crit, it's gonna do less damage. Buff duration and debuff duration is exactly what it is. And shield block penetration chance is if an enemy has a shield, how much of your attacks is going to go through it. Next, we have our other basic stats here. These are exactly what they say, like max health, max mana, etc. It's nothing more complicated. Next, let's talk about stat point allocation. So each stat point start at base 10. So at level 1, you get 10 for each stat, and when you level up you get more stat points and you can allocate to these 4 here. Don't worry, this is not permanent. You can always reset and allocate these points again. So when you give points to each of these 4 stats, each one will increase a set of stats on your stat page. So as you can see here, I'll reset my stats. Now, when I increase strength, you can see that it increases my base damage, melee defense, range defense, max health, and health regen. Same goes for dexterity. If I increase dexterity, it's going to increase my attack speed, base damage, melee critical hit chance, raid hit chance, magic hit chance, melee evasion, ranged evasion, and magic evasion. Same goes for others as well. So if we upgrade wisdom, it's going to increase my max mana, my max regen. And when I increase my perception, it's going to increase all of these. Now earlier, we saw that my base damage is higher than my weapons. That's because I get a base damage increase when I level up these 4 stats here. You can see when I increase my strength, it also increases my base damage. Same goes for other 4 as well. So on how to allocate these points, well, that depends on your build. So let's talk about how to build it. There are no defined theories on how to build a build, but I can give you like a baseline so you can use that as like a rule of thumb and build your build on that. So if you're like in the early game, like you only have green equipment, the main thing I would look for is max health, max mana, and regen and stuff. Because when you start out, you don't know the mechanics and stuff, so the important thing is survivability. Don't get me wrong, damage stats are good, but early game, having more health so you don't die quickly and having more mana to spam abilities is, I think, more important than building damage. And you are going to move from green to blue equipment very quickly, so focus on survivability in early game. When we get to blue items, that's when you should start thinking of what you want. Because until you reach level 50, you can't properly start farming high level gear, so you are going to be stuck in blue gear for a while. So each build is going to vary a lot, but I've looked at a lot of high level players' blue equipment builds and I've noticed a pattern. When it comes to weapons, all they build on it are offensive stats like crit chance, heavy hit chance, and hit chance. So what I would recommend for you guys as well to build your weapon with offensive stats. It's okay if you have like 1 or 2 other stats on them, like max mana or something, but mainly focus on offensive stats on your weapon. And when you come to armor, that's where you should build your defensive stats, like endurances and evasions. So my recommendation is mainly build max health, max mana, and especially evasions and endurances, and keep like one or two offensive stats on them. So on the question on like what I should build, like melee, ranged or magic defense, out of the three, pick two where you run into most trouble and build those two. It's hard to build all three equally, so try going mainly for two. And finally, when it comes to accessories, this is where you should build any stats you lack. So here, look for any stats you need more of and find the accessories that have them. Also, stats like skill boost damage, buff debuff duration, and other special stats like stun chance, weaken chance are also good on accessories too, so look for them as well. Same goes when you allocate your stat points too. So if you have good defensive stats on your build and lack a bit of offensive stats, put more points into like dex or strength. If you need more mana and lack mana regen, give more points to wisdom and so on. So really look at your equipment and put stat points onto each what you want from those. Now, when you get to purple equipment, things change a little bit. For every purple equipment, so whether it be weapons, armor or accessories, what you want to look for is stat points. In purple and some blue equipment, you can get a certain number of stat points on one or more of these points here. Like this chest piece for example. It has strength built into it. Those are the stuff you absolutely want to go for, because by endgame, getting more of these stats points is way more valuable than getting other stats. Because like each of those stat points increases multiple stats on your stat page. Plus, when you hit a certain threshold limit, you get like a bonus stat too. So here you can see that when you hit 30 strength, you get max health 750. And when you hit 30 dex, you get crit hit chance 100. So you can see the value in that, right? By endgame, if you are a damage dealer, you should mostly go for damage and not focus much on defenses, because tanking is not your role. You should focus on dealing the most amount of damage. So, an ideal equipment piece would have like one or two flat stat points, like strength or dex, plus with offensive stats, like crit hit chance or heavy hit chance. Also, this heavy hit chance is very valuable in the endgame, so really look out for them. Almost every meta build has a lot of heavy hit chance, so don't skip out on it, okay? It's really good. I would really recommend when you get to like purple gear to follow some kind of guide. I do the same and I'll link a website down in the description. So go there and look up your playstyle and see what are the meta equipments for your build and make your choices based on that. I would think that would really help out a lot. So guys, that's the end of this video. I hope this helped you to make better choices on your gear selection and helped you on whatever you are looking for. But as always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment down below and I'll try to answer them to the best I can. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to the channel as it helps my channel to grow and bring you guys this type of content. Also, don't forget to share this video among your friends who also have the same questions regarding this matter. So, thank you for watching.